Motion was filed here today also on behalf of Frank Sharp, asking that his deposition be moved to Houston Monday morning before SEC attorneys rather than requiring Sharp to come to Dallas Monday morning to give the deposition. No problem is expected with that request. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Federal Building.
Well, the National Guard program has deteriorated under the current leadership, in my judgment, and the commanding general of the of the Guard was not reappointed after March. The legislature has gone out of session. There has not been any appointment or confirmation. Another man out at the Guard unit has failed to get his commission to appointment as general. These changes are deteriorating the program, and I think that we're going to have to get it back on an even keel and get some people involved that are willing to go forward and get the program in the National Guard back in the vein in which it was prior to 2 years ago.
Yesterday evening, I received a phone call from San Francisco from a Swedish reporter for the Expressen newspaper, who told me that there was a report in Sweden that 183 Americans were to be released on August the 12th and were to be flown on a Swedish airplane to the United States. And he wanted to know my reaction to this. And so, of course, I told him that I had heard nothing of this, and it appeared as though he was relaying to me something that seemed to be rather well-known news in Sweden, and that he was getting a reaction story from me. So I called my casualty assistance officer in San Antonio to find out if he knew anything about this, if they had any information about this, and he called Washington to find out. And when the casualty assistance officer from San Antonio called me back, he told me that the story had been confirmed in Washington, that indeed there was a story that there were to be prisoners released.
So Washington confirmed that prisoners were to be released?
No, they confirmed that there was a story.
Perot labored long and hard, and in the face of some close questioning by the City Plan Commission, to sell this planned development of his in North Dallas. He never did sell them completely. The two woman members of the commission, Mrs. Kay Gallagher and Mrs. M.M. Harrison, both voted against approving it, and Perot faced opposition from some of the neighbors. Morris Jaffee, who claimed to represent the majority of the property owners in the area, said most of the property owners would go along with him. But Morris Herkimer had a survey which he said represented the majority of the property owners, and he said the majority of the property owners did not want such a development. I talked to Ross Perot after today's meeting and asked him if he thought he'd ever get the majority of the property owners in that area with him.
Leaving Dallas?
Well, it means, of course, our company is spread all over the United States. It means that our headquarters will be in the city limits of Dallas. The statement that EDS was leaving Dallas was a statement of the media, not a statement of Perot. When you leave Dallas, you don't have to go to Mars or Venus. You can go to Carrollton, Garland, Grand Prairie. And that was the context in which the statement was made.
Ross Perot says he'll do almost anything to get neighborhood approval for his electronic data systems office complex out in North Dallas. He says he's willing to meet with the neighbors, and of course he hasn't faced his last hurdle. It'll be at least a month, but Perot still has to go before the City Council, and the Council is much more amenable to citizen pressure than is the City Plan Commission. Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News, in the Dallas City Council chambers.
Well, we feel that we ought to be responsive to the consumer. If a person doesn't want mail advertising, we ought to help them get off the mailing list. And we feel that that's the kind of, to be responsible people in business, that's what we ought to do.
Out of the cities in which you've tested this particular type of response for those who don't want to receive direct mail, has the response been overwhelming?
No, frankly it hasn't. We've had about 4,000 requests from the 8 cities that we've been, and we've had exposure to perhaps 12 million people. I guess you'd have to conclude that most people really want to continue receiving mail. A lot of times, you know, psychologically, people say they don't want it, but really they go back and order out of a catalog or something the next day. You know how people are.
Isn't this type of campaign going to hurt direct mail business?
Well, it could if 1 million people said they didn't want it. Maybe it could, but I'm confident that only a few thousand people really don't want to receive mail, and we're out to prove it, I suppose, in one way, and in another, to remove that irritant. Who wants to irritate people? They're certainly not going to be customers. So why mail to them? It's uneconomic. It's a waste of money. It doesn't help them, you know. So we think it's just being responsible.
The poor should be able to choose their directors. However, the Board of Directors at the meeting held July the 27th, 1971, voted against the target areas on every issue, including the election of the executive director. The target areas, as a result of this flagrant and calculated disregard of our wishes, are displeased, frustrated, and extremely bitter. If we allow this present trend of controlling the welfare and lives of other people without their consent and keeping them powerless to overcome this outside control to continue, the Legal Services Project will defeat its own purpose, and the basic concepts of American freedoms remain in ever-increasing danger.
Well, this is the meet that all the boys will try to get qualify in time for the national championship. So this is really our championship meet.
Can we look forward to some outstanding swimmers in it?
Yes, I'd say we'll have the outstanding swimmers in the whole southwest area. We've even drawn some boys as far north as Kansas City, Kansas.
How many people will be here?
We have about 275 entries.
And they will begin Friday and continue through Sunday, right?
That's right. Starting Friday at 11 prelims and Friday night at 7 finals, and the same program Saturday and Sunday. The tickets are on sale now at Colonial Country Club. There's a special ticket office set up, and orders can be handled readily. The tickets are, we have boxes, a few boxes still available. There are some inexpensive general admission seats the first 3 nights of the tournament. During that period, we'll have 3 courts containing matches at one time. There will be matches on the first 3 courts. The general admission tickets for that night are $2. We think this will open the tennis availability to a lot of people that would otherwise maybe feel like it was expensive.
"12 years ago, all of this was a cow pasture, a little thought-of area along the newly built Dallas-Fort Worth Turnpike near Arlington. Today, it is Six Flags Over Texas, the world-famous sprawling fun park that annually attracts several million visitors. 10 years ago today, Six Flags opened its doors, and today an air of nostalgia hangs over the area as employees and guests alike celebrate the big park's birthday. Instead of candles on one big cake, Six Flags had 11 cakes, one for each year, depicting the park's cumulative attendance. By the end of the 1971 season, it's estimated that more than 17.5 million visitors will have passed through the turnstiles. The first visitor that August day in 1961 was 5-year-old Teresa Poole. She was an integral part of today's ceremonies, feeding the first piece of traditional cake to Six Flags General Manager Bob Freeman. I asked Teresa about the changes she's seen in the park.
All the trees have gotten bigger and the shrubbery and all, and gotten new, funner rides.
Was it fun that first day in 1961?
As much as I can remember.
What do you think about it today now that you're 15 years old?
Oh, I think it's a lot funner. I remember it a lot better. I enjoy it a lot.
As the park continues to grow older, it continues to grow in stature. And as it changes with new and exciting features, some things don't change. That's the smiles of the 2 million visitors each year who enjoy the delight, fantasy, and fun that is Six Flags. Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move, Six Flags Over Texas.
Oh, it's going to help, but most people don't know how it's going to help men, too. You see, men are being discriminated against in this society right now. And if we ever have law schools in each of the states taking on the examination of state laws to the extent that we see how many laws are outdated but are pulled up at the convenience of people who want to discriminate, then we'll be getting somewhere. The Equal Rights Amendment doesn't say anything exactly about women, you know. It's the basis of sex. It says no person's rights shall be abridged because of sex. And that's in effect what it will do. Now, the big objection you hear is mostly about women's being drafted. That's not a big problem to the young women of draft age. We've heard them speak, mainly because they know that young men today serve in the services according to function. There's many a guy who's gone into the service who never saw a gun, so to speak, and never served in combat. So why can't we make the same provision if we have women?
Well, this is what I'm disturbed about, is that I don't think we are through with it, or if we should be, and Hubert Green has done all the work, and the committee has done all the work it can do, then we should formally meet and finalize a report to the legislature. However, I do not think we have completed our work.
You had pending a request that the investigating committee also look into the National Guard situation in Texas. Has there been any action on that?
This is one of the reasons for sure I know the committee has not concluded its work, because it was my understanding at the close of the session that we would begin this summer investigating the National Guard problem as it exists in Texas, where there are some discrepancies. This has not been done, and I'm going to, well, I want the committee to meet so we can formally make that decision.
A number of attorneys and some of the principals involved in the SEC stock fraud case have spent all day today in the Dallas Federal Building. They're here principally for the deposition being given by John Osorio to SEC attorneys. Osorio testified to the Travis County Grand Jury on Tuesday. He has spent all day testifying before SEC attorneys today. He'll be back again tomorrow. Along with Osorio here is Joseph Novotny, the one that the Travis County Grand Jury could not find to give testimony. On their way out of the building, we asked Novotny if he's been hiding from the sheriffs, and we asked Osorio how he feels the SEC has treated him in this case. Have you been hiding from the sheriffs who's trying to serve the subpoena?
Of course not.
Do you feel like you've been treated fairly by the SEC during this matter?
No, I think it's the worst handled case of the SEC annuals, in fact. It's been drug out. I think it's caused everybody, not only the people involved, but other people, a great deal of problems.
You feel like you will finish the depositions tomorrow?
I certainly hope so. I need to go back to work.
I have not identified that group yet, but we'll continue to try. Now, we've worked with Mr. Herkimer and his group we've worked closely with. Now, keep in mind that a neighborhood is a big group of people, and it's very difficult for a neighborhood to operate in a tightly disciplined manner, say like a small organization could. So certainly the neighbors have worked with us very closely. In one meeting where there were several hundred neighbors present, the vote was quite decisive. In the later meetings, apparently, there was some shifting and changing. But we'll just continue to try to work very closely with the neighbors to make sure that we do protect the neighborhood. It's all we can do.